Hello, this is Brigadier P.S. Gotra. Today we'll discuss principles of war as applicable in the Operation Pawan, that is the IPKF intervention in Sri Lanka. For the ease of understanding, I have divided this into a question and we will discuss the question. The question is the success of military operations depends upon the correct application of principles of war, but their effectiveness is ultimately shaped by political clarity and strategic coherence. With reference to the Indian peacekeeping force intervention in Sri Lanka from 1987 to 1989, critically analyze how principles of war were applied, misapplied, and constrained during the campaign. Now, let's see the what are the principles of war as per the Indian doctrine. I've listed these down on this slide. Please go through them. Also remember the acronyms which I have put on the sides. It has been seen that they are useful especially while writing the assessment and conclusions of any answer. And it has also been seen that the examiners tend to give more marks to the answers which refer to the principles of war during the answering. So we come to the introduction. The Indian intervention of Sri Lanka, 1987, undertaken through the deployment of Indian peacekeeping force under Operation Pawan, provides a significant case study for analyzing the application of principles of war in complex political and military environment. The intervention followed the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord of July 1987, which required India to assist in stabilizing Sri Lanka, disarm Tamil militant groups, and facilitate a political settlement for the Tamil minority. However, the mission soon evolved from a peacekeeping role into counter-insurgency campaign against the LTTE. This transformation exposed the difficulties of applying classical principles of war in an insurgency environment shaped by political uncertainties, intelligence gaps, and shifting strategic objectives. The IPKF experience demonstrates that while the principles of war remain relevant, their effectiveness depends heavily on political clarity, unity of effort, and alignment between strategic objectives and the military means. So we move to the first principle of war, that is selection and maintenance of aim. In the Sri Lankan intervention, the political objective was initially to implement the Indo Sri Lanka Accord, supervising the surrender of militant weapons and stabilize the region through the political reconciliation. However, this aim was not consistently maintained. The mission quickly shifted from peacekeeping and supervision of disarmament to peace enforcement, eventually to counterinsurgency operations against the LTTE. This shift occurred when LTT refused to surrender its weapon and resumed hostilities. As a result, military objectives became unclear. The IPKF had to conduct combat operations without a clearly defined political end state. The absence of stable strategic aim created confusion in operational planning, reduced the effectiveness of the military actions. This represents a major violation of the principle of selection and maintenance of aim. The next one, the principle of offensive action, emphasizes maintaining initiative and imposing one's will on the adversary. The IPKF initially demonstrated strong offensive capability. Operations such as Operation Pawan, which resulted in the capture of Jaffna in late 1987, displayed the Indian Army's ability to conduct coordinated conventional operations involving infantry, armor, artillery, airborne troops. These actions successfully disrupted LTT's conventional defenses and demonstrated India's capability or capacity for expeditionary operations. However, the LTT quickly adopted by abandoning the conventional engagements and shifting to guerrilla warfare tactics. Small units, ambushes, and hit and run attacks allowed the insurgents to avoid decisive engagement. Thus, while the principle of offensive action was applied effectively in the early phase, it became difficult to sustain once the conflict transformed into insurgency. The principle of concentration requires the massing of combat power at decisive points to achieve overwhelming superiority. IPKF attempted to apply this principle during several operations, particularly during the capture of Jaffna and later campaigns such as the Operation Virat and Operation Trishul, which involved large troops deployment and coordinated maneuvers. However, insurgent warfare diluted the effectiveness of concentration. The LTT avoided direct battles and dispersed into rural areas and jungles. This meant that the battlefield was fragmented and conventional force concentration could not produce decisive outcomes. While the principle was correctly applied during conventional engagements, it proved less effective in the dispersed environment of guerrilla warfare. Economy of effort requires optimal use of available resources to achieve objectives without unnecessary expenditure of force. In the Sri Lankan campaign, this principle was weakened by several factors. First is the underestimation of the LTT strength and resolve, lack of accurate intelligence, expansion of mission scope. Initially, the deployment was expected to face limited resistance. However, the rapid escalation into full scale conflict required significantly more troops and resources. The IPKF eventually deployed large numbers of troops and maintained prolonged operations across difficult terrains. Thus, the campaign witnessed significant expenditure of manpower and resources, indicating that the principle of economy of effort was not effectively applied. The principle of surprise involves striking the enemy at the time or place where he is unprepared. The IPKF attempted to employ surprise during operations such as Jaffna University heliborne assault, intended to capture LTT leadership quickly. However, the operation failed due to intelligence leaks and strong resistance from the LTT fighters. Instead, the insurgents frequently achieved tactical surprise by conducting ambushes and attacks on the Indian patrols. The guerrilla nature of the conflict allowed the LTT to exploit mobility, terrain familiarity, and local support to the generate surprise. Thus, in many instances, the advantage of surprise shifted from conventional military force to the insurgents. Security involves protecting forces from enemy interference and maintaining operational secrecy. In Sri Lanka, IPKF faced major challenges in maintaining security. The LTT operated within the local population and possessed an extensive intelligence network. This made it difficult for Indian forces to distinguish between civilians and militants. Additionally, the terrain of jungles, villages, and urban areas favored the insurgent tactics. Convoys and patrols were vulnerable to ambushes and improvised explosive devices. Although the IPKF controlled major towns and communication routes, maintaining security across the entire operational area proved difficult. This demonstrates the limitation of conventional forces operating in insurgency environments where the enemy blends with the population. Flexibility refers to the ability to adapt quickly to changing situations. Initially, the IPKF approached the mission as a peacekeeping operation, which limited its operational posture. Once hostilities began, the army had to rapidly adjust its tactics. The IPKF gradually adopted counterinsurgency methods, including search and destroy missions, area domination patrols, intelligence based operations, integration of army, aviation, and special forces. These adaptations demonstrated a degree of operational flexibility. However, the initial delay in recognizing the nature of the conflict cost valuable time and the momentum. Thus, flexibility was eventually achieved, but not without initial setbacks. The principle of cooperation requires close coordination between different services and agencies and political authorities. In the Sri Lankan campaign, cooperation was complicated by several factors. Divergence between political leadership and military assessments, limited coordination with Sri Lankan forces, intelligence gaps between agencies, civil military coordination was not always synchronized, and the political leadership did not always fully incorporate military advice in strategic decisions. The lack of unity of effort weakened the effectiveness of the operations and complicated the implementation of peace accord. Morale is the psychological strength and determination of troops. Despite the difficult circumstances, the morale and the professionalism of the IPKF remained high. Indian soldiers demonstrated courage and resilience in difficult terrain and against a determined insurgent force. Operations such as the capture of Jaffna and sustained counterinsurgency campaigns reflected the discipline and commitment of the troops. However, prolonged deployment, unclear political objectives, and hostile local sentiment placed significant strain on morale at the strategic level. Overall, the IPKF intervention illustrates that the principles of war remain relevant but must be adapted to political and insurgent environment. Several principles such as the offensive action, concentration of force, and flexibility were applied effectively during the certain phases of campaign. However, other principles, particularly the selection and maintenance of aim, economy of effort, surprise, and cooperation, were constrained by the political ambiguity and intelligence limitations. The experience demonstrates that the military effectiveness cannot be separated from political direction. When political objectives are unclear or constantly shifting, the application of military principles become inconsistent. To conclude, we can say that the intervention in Sri Lanka between 1987 and 1989 highlights the complex relationship between military doctrine and political strategy. The Indian Army demonstrated considerable operational competence and tactical success, particularly during early phases of the campaign. However, The absence of a clearly defined and consistently maintained political aim, combined with the intelligence gaps and the civil military dissonance, limited the strategic effectiveness of the intervention. With this, we have come to the end of this lesson also. Thank you.